Hello, my name is Danny Ransinger, and for my final project I have chosen to explore the invasive species known as Asian carp and the potential impact they would have on spreading to the Great Lakes. This issue is important to me as I am an avid canoeer, kayaker, and hiker. I spent a lot of time on the coast of Lake Superior, kayaking the various coastal islands, the Apostle Islands, hiking on the Superior hiking trails, or any canoeing nearby waterways, and would love to see these beautiful waterways preserved for future generations to come. As a quick overview for my report, I will start by examining the four species of fish that the umbrella term Asian carp refers to, their introduction and subsequent spread across the Mississippi River Basin, and before discussing the current prevention methods, a summary of conducted impact surveys, proposed future prevention methods, and my recommendation of how to properly defend these waterways for the future. Types. The term Asian carp actually refers to four separate species of fish: the bighead, black, grass, and silver carp. The silver carp, which is the smallest, grows to a maximum of about 4 feet or 100 pounds. The other three species, bighead, grass, and black carp, can grow to about 150 pounds and be over 5 feet in length in some occasions. The bighead carp and silver carp both consume phytoplankton, a primary autotroph for river and lake systems, and an essential food source to nearly all native juvenile fish. The grass carp consumes seaweed, which is essential to hatcheries for many native fish, and the black carp eats snails and mussels. Asian carp can consume 5 to 40% of their body weight daily, depending on the species, and that is incredibly high, especially when coupled with the fact that they can lay about 2 million eggs in a single year. Although only 1 to 3% of these eggs will hatch, this helps demonstrate the threat these fish could pose to our waterways. Silver carp have an added risk to recreational boaters of being easily frightened by vibrations, for example, a boat motor, which causes them to leap out of the water at quite a high velocity, and since they can weigh up to 100 pounds, and if you're in a fast moving boat, it's easy to see how that could be quite a hazard to recreational boaters, and especially if the populations are as dense as they are in the photo I've provided. So, Asian carp were originally introduced to the U.S. in Arkansas in the early 1970s to help regulate algae and seaweed populations in aquaculture ponds, and soon became popular across the southern United States for use in these ponds. In the early 1980s, after a particularly bad year of flooding, Asian carp began to appear more and more frequently in the wild and quickly spread up the Mississippi River Basin and across the entire U.S. The graph on the right does a good job of showing just exactly how far these fish were able to spread, and this was provided by the United States Geological Survey in 2015, and it truly shows how far they were able to make it in just 30 or so years. And today, some parts of the Mississippi River Basin have an estimated 95% Asian carp by biomass. So, by weight, 95% of the fish occupying those rivers are the invasive species Asian carp. The primary vector for Asian carp to enter the Great Lakes is through the Chicago Sanitary and Shipping Canal, which is a man-made canal connecting Lake Michigan and the rest of the Great Lakes to the already infested Illinois River. There is currently a series of 4 electric barriers in place. The first was erected in 2002 and the last one in 2011. And the electric barriers spread across the canal with the intent of creating a strong enough electric field to essentially give the fish a headache and keep them from traveling upstream, hopefully safeguarding the Great Lakes from these invaders. However, it has been noticed that when large metal objects, such as a barge, travel through the electromagnetic field, it effectively punches a hole in the field, and the fish can swim underneath the barge without being affected by the electromagnetic field, giving us a potential vector for infestation still. There was a fair amount of contention when it came to the risk assessment. Asian carp prefer turbulent, warm, shallow, and moving water for their spawning grounds, which is nearly the polar opposite of what is offered by the Great Lakes. However, they were able to perform one anyways, and they were able to identify 22 individual tributaries and this is only on the United States side of the Great Lakes, that could potentially be ideal spawning locations for the Asian carp, and there could be many more on the Canadian side. So the fish could spawn in these locations and move to the Great Lakes afterwards. Proposed methods include the elimination of the Chicago Shipping and Sanitary Canalway, which would be by far the most effective and sure way to fully prevent the spread of these species, but that unfortunately would have some pretty drastic economic ramifications. They've also come up with a high frequency sound barriers, which are showing quite a bit of promise. As I discussed earlier, the fish are quite sensitive to vibration of like a boat motor. So using these very high frequency sound waves, we've had very good results with deterring them from traveling upstream using those. Another proposed idea was using chemicals to poison very heavily infested areas. Unfortunately, we tried that in 2009 in the Chicago Sanitary Shipping and Canalway and released roughly 2,000 gallons of rotenone, which is a normal carpicide chemical. And unfortunately, it did kill thousands of fish, but among them there was only a singular Asian carp found. So that did not seem ideal either. And then for my recommendations, I'd say ideally the shutting down of the Chicago Sanitary and Shipping Canal would be the best and most effective way to safeguard the lakes. However, because it moves 18 million tons of goods, which is responsible for $3 to $10 billion economically for people around the Great Lakes, it seems like that would be a giant economic loss for people who depended on it, and we should avoid that. Poisoning the fish obviously didn't work. It was almost as effective as doing nothing. However, the sonic barriers were very promising, and I would say a hybrid strategy using the sonic barriers in tandem with the electrical barriers to further safeguard the Chicago Sanitary Shipping Canalway would be the best possible solution without affecting the economic benefits of having the Chicago shipping and sanitary route open. And that would be my recommendation.